As we go international here, the Israeli military does believe the Houthi terror group's entire cabinet was killed in a strike in Yemen Thursday, including the prime minister. Israel's Channel 12 reporting the assessment is preliminary, adding that it appears the Houthi defense minister and military chief of staff were there at the time of the explosion. That's just one of the topics that we are following out of the Middle East here. Let's bring in Clifford May, founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us as always.
Good to see you, Josh, always.
All right, so first off, I have to ask you here about that headline. Again, Channel 12 reporting that the preliminary assessment says that the Houthi prime minister and the entire cabinet wiped out in that strike. If true, if confirmed, how significant is that?
It's very significant. It's really interesting. Keep in mind that the initial approach to the Houthis was just to shoot down their missiles, like to shoot down their arrows. And then after that, the U.S. and to a great extent the Israelis went after the infrastructure, where they're building the missiles, where they're launching them from. This is different. This is going after the personnel in charge, the defense minister. By the way, when we use these terms, the Houthis are not really a nation. They're a rebel group that occupy and control much of Yemen. Not all of it. They're not recognized. There is a government. It's weaker, actually, than the Houthis, partly because the Houthis are backed up by the regime in Tehran. So we don't know everybody who's lost, but some very important people are lost. That means that there are a lot of, I don't know, junior vice presidents for missile launching against the Zionist enemy who will not now get promotions and maybe raises. Will they be as good as those who came before them? I don't know. Will they be more frightened now of what's going on? I mean, if you're such a person, you know that buckling your seatbelt is not enough to keep you safe. The Israelis had very precise intelligence where these people would be and how to hit them. That's really kind of remarkable.
I want to pop this up on your screen because there's a lot of information still developing as far as this goes. But Trey Yingst, our friend over at Fox News, late last night, saying lots of chatter tonight of a serious incident in Gaza involving IDF soldiers. There's no confirmed information or official comment from the Israeli military, waiting to report any details here until we get more. Now, as the hours unfolded after that, we learned that Arab media was reporting that IDF soldiers had been taken captive. They were kidnapped there in Gaza. The IDF came out hours later and said that is not the case. It's propaganda. It's not true. But my question for you is there really any question that the Hamas terror group and other terror groups there do want to take even more hostages?
Of course, that's right, Josh. That's absolutely the case. That what Hamas understands is that the Israelis value their people to an extraordinary extent. There are probably of the 250 hostages taken on back in October of 2023, there are perhaps 20 still alive. They're still alive, being tortured, being starved. We've seen videos put out by Hamas of starving hostages being forced to dig their own graves. The Israelis don't say, oh, well, that's too bad. That's what happens in war. Let's go after Hamas. And whatever collateral damage there is, there will be. Hamas, by contrast, uses Gazan civilians as human shields, in the secure knowledge that every time a Gazan civilian gets killed, a woman, a child, and whoever it is, even a terrorist, people will say, oh, those terrible Israelis, look what they're doing. While Hamas are in their tunnels, cost hundreds of billions, millions of dollars to create, safe and eating stolen food. But yes, this is something the Israelis have to think hard about. Even if we have a deal to get these hostages out, we don't have that yet, but even if we do we not think that Hamas, if it survives, will try to take new hostages and do this all over again?
And we do have a live look right here outside of Al-Aqsa Hospital. This is over in Gaza there. It looks like the shot is frozen, but we also have another one that shows the families and friends of the different hostages that are still being held there in Gaza. This is over in Israel as they hold their weekly news conference and then do the protests. They take to the streets there, thousands upon thousands of people that gather to essentially call for the resignation of Benjamin Netanyahu, also the end to the war. They want a ceasefire, a lot of different topics that are discussed. But another topic I want to discuss with you here is the Palestinian Authority criticizing the U.S. decision to essentially deny visas to its officials there for that upcoming United Nations General Assembly. Now, the office of the president urging the U.S. to reconsider, calling the move a violation of international law and the UN headquarters agreement. So it's a big topic that's being discussed. And I always ask you how significant. So how significant is that decision? And are there any potential diplomatic consequences as a result?
Um, Look, the Trump administration is taking, I think, a principled position and saying that Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, he pays people for terrorist acts. You kill Israelis, you get paid for it, even while you're in prison. The more you kill, the more you get paid. In all the years he's been in office, and he's been in office for like close to 20 years, with only one election years ago, he's done nothing for the people he rules. No democracy, no freedom. He's not contributing to the possibility of peaceful coexistence with Israel. They just think, the Trump administration thinks it's irrelevant, and no need to have him come to New York to make speeches and pound his chest and say what a victim he is. If people don't like it, they can say it's a violation of international law. That's just an assertion. International law is whatever people say it is these days. If they want to take the UN out of New York City and maybe put it in, I don't know, Lagos, Nigeria, or maybe Tehran, I think a lot of Americans say, go ahead and do it. That's fine.
And my last question for you here, the status of those negotiations between Israel and Hamas. We've talked about this Gaza ceasefire hostage release deal. It's been a hot topic here for months, really for almost 2 years, as the war did begin and the October 7th attack happened. So are we any closer? Are we seeing any kind of discussion that's moving forward, or are we just kind of stalled at this point?
Well, here's what I infer. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, is saying to Hamas, we can come into Gaza City, where we really haven't been before, where life is relatively normal. There's food in the shops. Sometimes it's expensive. Sometimes it's less so, depending on how much aid is getting in. We can come in, and we will evacuate to safer places the civilians, and then we're going to come after you, Hamas, in your tunnels. We know you want to kill Israelis and Jews. We know you don't care if your people, the Gazan civilians, are killed. You think that's a good thing. It's part of your strategy in the disinformation war against Israel. Maybe you want to be martyrs too. If that's what you want, we'll help you get there. But if you would like to leave, maybe go to Algeria, maybe go to Qatar, maybe go somewhere else. All you have to do is give up the hostages and say, yep, we're laying down our weapons, we want to go. This is your last chance. Figure out what you want to do. I can't tell you what decision Hamas, those leaders left in the tunnels, what they're going to decide.
All right, Cliff May, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to provide some context there. Anything we missed, anything you want to add before I let you go? I know we just kind of hit the surface there because there's so many developments. So anything else that you want to add?
You know, I'm focusing very much on the two wars taking place now, one in the Middle East and one, of course, in Ukraine. Very good that the Trump administration is now sending over $800 million worth of weaponry, including longer range missiles, to Ukraine. They'll do so with the European friends. Picking up the tab, they will pay the bill, and we'll deliver it to them, and they will deliver it to the Ukrainians, who need it to defend themselves. More pressure. What we do know now very clearly is that Putin has no interest in a ceasefire and no interest in longer peace. He doesn't even have interest in doing what Trump suggested, which is Putin sitting down with Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, to talk. Why doesn't he? Here's the way I've been framing it. Putin thinks he's a lion. Putin thinks Zelensky's a lamb. The lion doesn't sit down with the lamb. The lion eats the lamb. And that's what Putin's saying. So now we know that that's what Putin wants: more pressure, economic pressure, weapons for Ukraine. Don't forget, over the past 1,000 days, the Russian troops have gained maybe 1% of territory with almost 1 million casualties. That's not progress for them. Trump thinks to Putin, "Don't you want to save your soldiers?" Putin says, "I don't care. I want to drag Ukraine back in the Kremlin's orbit. That's my goal."
And I'm sure we'll talk with you a little bit more about Ukraine soon, because that situation continues. It seemed like maybe there would be a ceasefire agreement of some kind after President Trump met with Putin and also met with Zelensky. But at this point, that's still up in the air. Cliff, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh. Good to see you.